falls, or if they get hurt, or if they may have something that happens to them as a child, right? Then they may have some sort of intellectual disability, okay? So we're going to be talking about factors impacting comprehension and retention in adolescence, okay? That's kind of what we're going to talk about. We're talking about you guys, okay? Students your age, okay? So why don't we go ahead and get started? Are you ready? Okay. This is going to be for a class called Evidence-Based Inquiry, okay? I'm Sean Bass, okay? We're going to be talking about factors impacting comprehension and retention in adolescence. Basically, traumatic brain injury, sleep disruptions brought on by medications, and other acquired disorders affect various areas within the classroom environment. The most common forms include insomnia, fatigue, hypersomnia, narcolepsy, hindered sleep phases, variation of sleep-wake schedule, and movement disorders. Now, what does that all mean to us? What that basically means is that if we have some sort of injury, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second, brought on by a disorder, something that's happened to you as a child, okay? I had a student, his name was Peyton. Obviously, that's not his real name. This study was inspired by Peyton. Peyton was a student that I don't have anymore. But what happened is Peyton was hit by a car when he was 13 years old and had suffered a traumatic brain injury, and they had to put a steel plate in his head. So, as a student, he would come to my room and he would sleep. Well, we didn't know why. For months, we didn't know why. All we knew is that he wasn't doing his work. All we knew was that he was being disruptive. All we knew was that he was showing behaviors. However, when we talk about causes, traumatic brain injuries, we have sleep disruptions brought on by medications. If they have medications that they're taking for that traumatic brain injury, it may have adverse effect on them. We don't know. They may have to move that medication from early in the morning till late at night. Because what happens is if they take that medicine early, if they don't take it before, let's say, 6 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock in the evening, they're going to be up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So then what happens is they come to school and they sleep and they miss out on things. We're talking about sleep disruptions brought on by medications. Okay? We've got insomnia, fatigue. All those things you guys go through right now. Right? You guys have those things right now. Insomnia. You stay up all night, right? Each year, approximately 700,000 U.S. children between the ages of 0 and 19 sustain some sort of traumatic brain injury. Now, this places them at huge risk when we're talking about academic, cognitive, and behavioral challenges. When we're talking about cognitive and behavioral challenges, we're talking about, can you remember? Can you hang on? Can you comprehend that information? Can you retain it? When we're talking about behavioral challenges, we're talking about if they're getting up throwing desks at me, if they're constantly getting mad and angry and they think somebody is after them. They may pick fights with people. All of this happened with Peyton. All right, he became extremely paranoid. Okay? So the question here is, what are the characteristics of sleep disorders within adolescents with TBI or traumatic brain injuries? And how does it affect the student's understanding and concepts of the ability to think and reason along with the retention of the information given in the class within a class setting? Now, what does that mean? Basically, what that means is that are you going to be able to remember things? And if you can't, how do we fix that? Class within a class setting, okay? That means that you have special education students mixed in with regular ed students. Okay, we have that here at Wichita Southeast. Okay? All right, so some of the repercussions. These are some of the things that, what happens if they do have these things. So we've got an attendance problem, low graduation rates, behavioral incidents, whether that be verbal, passive, aggressive, or physical aggressive. Then we've got overall success in the classroom. Right? Do you want to learn? Do you want to be here? All right? These are all some of the repercussions that we talk about when traumatic brain injuries happen and we have sleep problems. Okay? All right, some more why. We talked about medications, whether it's legal or illegal. Studies are showing that those that take methamphetamines for a long period of time will sustain some sort of traumatic brain injury. Okay? So they have an adverse effect on the classroom as well. Believe it or not, guys, there are students your age who are addicted to methamphetamines. Okay? We see it. All right, so when we talk about some of the literature from this study, all right, there are avenues available for research over TBIs and sleep disorders. I found a lot of information that we did on this retention and cognition on Google Scholar. We have something called ERIC Education through Wichita State, the 3rd edition. I used that information. I gathered information from doctors, professors, and educators, such as a man named Verma and Itzel. Not to mention the fact that we've got periodicals here in Kansas alone over nothing but Brain Injury Association of Kansas. Nothing over brain injuries. Okay? All right. So, my study. All right? This study provides research methods. When we talk about probes, we're talking about how are we recording it. Right? The technology available to identify areas of concern and weakness. One such method that they use a lot in situations like this is what's called an auditory psychomotor vigilance task, or PVT. Okay? This is one of the probes that we use. All right, so my observation and my data. Information was recorded through summative and formative assessment. When we talk about summative assessment, that means I'm walking around looking. All right, I'm observing. When we talk about formative assessment, we're talking about how he does on his tests, how he does on his quizzes, right? And this was in the CWC and adapted classes here, okay? The study was concerned, it was looking for changes not only in comprehension and retention, but also behavioral and emotional. Because let's be honest, guys, when we ask you to do something and you're extremely tired, you're not going to want to do it. All right? This was magnified for this student. Okay? So we're looking for these kind of things. So where do we go from here? One option may be individualistic observation or one-on-one time. Can we spend that time with you here? Right? Also, it should be noted that Deborah Attell feels as I do. All right? This is one of the authors that I have cited in my work. There's a lack of awareness from many educators involving data and strategies once students are seen to suffer from TBIs. So what's that mean? There's not a whole lot of information, right, being published to the teachers like me and some of the others. All right? We know through data and observation, right, that TBIs create an overall frustration in language skills, cognition in the classroom setting. We know that. There seems to be a lack of communication, right? We as educators seem to have a lot of communication problems with outside agencies, our administrators, other staff members, when trying to talk about how to deal with traumatic brain injuries. Okay? Not to mention the fact that we've got some veteran teachers who are unwilling to change to find an easier way to do these things. Instead, they'd rather say you're disabled or unteachable. Okay? But here's some good news. All right? We have school psychologists and counselors to advance discussion and collaboration on these overall communication skills. That way we can talk to staff. That way we can talk to parents. And that way we can talk with other medical fields. Okay? All right. Here's some final thoughts for you. Okay? There appears to be an inclination to pass the buck. When we talk about passing the buck, all right, we're not actually passing that buck. That's one of those idioms, right? But we're saying, hey, it's not my job, you do it. It's not my job, you do it. Okay, and that's not just here, but it happens all over the country. in this state even. Okay? They say it isn't my field. Right? However, in order for us to help you, all right, to serve the neediest of the needy, okay, we need to have more what's called professional development. We need to have more meetings. We need to have more discussions in order to help students who have traumatic brain injuries, who have behaviors, that have some kind of sleep disorder brought on by the traumatic brain injury. Okay? We need to talk about these things. Okay? All right. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.